basically, with your race nutrition, break it down into blocks. Again, it depends on the duration of your race. If it's multi-day affair, if it's single stage, if it's multi-stage, or actually if it's just, a fast local 30-mile ultra that you're going to knock out pretty quickly. But chunk up your nutrition and break it into blocks, and think about how you can add variety to that. So for each block, break that into a series of hours. So again, depending on your race, if let's talk about the sparring, for instance. So you're out there for a long time, serious amount of time between checkpoints. You've got to take a lot of nutrition with you. There's not always the ability to stop at shops or cafes or things like that. So, taste fatigue is going to come into that, getting bored of your food, but getting the right food. So you might break it down into blocks, which could be 5 hours. And then in those, you break each hour down into a smaller block based around how many grams of carbohydrates you might need per hour. So we think, right, actually we want 60 an hour, then what do we need to put in for that, if that's your goal? So with this race planner, what you can start to do is use a drop-down menu. So if I put in, okay, what do I want on this? Let's mix it up. I want a gel. So on the next drop-down, I've put a list of all the gels there. So if you find anything that's not on there, let me know and I can add them. So let's say, okay, let's go fancy and get a Morton Gel 100. Okay, so that brings that gel up on that line. And what I've done with each one is I've measured how many carbohydrates are in each product. I've weighed out, I've bought all these products and weighed them out, so I know the exact weight of each. I've put the carbohydrate to weight ratio. So the lower that number, the more carbs you get in for the weight that you carry in. The amount of protein in that, the amount of caffeine, the amount of fiber, the amount of fat, the amount of calories, and then the calories to weight ratio. So again, if you're on a race like the Spine, you think, well, I'm going to prioritize carbs, but I also want to make sure I'm getting in lots of calories, because I want to be like Giannis Corris and meet my calorie needs. So this means, again, with that number, you're getting more bang for your buck. So there's a little amount there, so you can put 2 in. And then straight away, with those 2 Morton gels, we're on 50 grams for that hour. So you think, right, what else do I want to add? So, yeah, I want something that is, a real food, but something that's a bit salty. So peanuts in there, pretzels, crunchy corn. Let's go crunchy corn. All right. 32 grams of carbs in there for 46 grams in weight. Yeah, that mixes it up a bit. We only want 1 packet of that. And then there's an electrolyte drink in there as well. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then each one, you can basically go through, build that block, depending on, what your race is, how long it is between checkpoints. Then at the bottom, that'll give a total and say how many carbs there are across that block, what the weight is, the carb to weight ratio, how much protein and things like that. So again, for each block, you might fill only in 1 of these hours or 2 or 3. Again, whatever you feel it is in terms of your pace that's going to get you through to the next checkpoint. And then you go through simply building the blocks. And then there's the checkpoints as well. So I've put some stuff in there. So you might put what you want on the checkpoints. And then you just kind of go through building that, and it's got all the totals at the top. So again, it means you can plan out a short race or a long race. And over each block, you can balance it out so you're getting the same amount of carbs and protein. So you've got the options to mix it up a little bit. And then all you do in advance is you put all this stuff into sandwich bags, mark them up, and then you pull them out. So that block might be different than that hour might be different than the second hour. So you might think, right, first 2 hours, going to go for gels. And then actually, once I get to hour 3, I'm going to go, something which wants some real food in there. So I'm going to bang in some real food that's nice and savory. So actually, what do I want? Oh, it's curry night. I'm gonna have a veg samosa. One of them. And there you go. 24 grams of carbs in a veg samosa. Weighs 50 grams. Seems like an odd thing to put in a veg samosa in your race pack, but actually, when you've just shoved a load of gels down your neck, nice veg samosa, sorts your day out. And then you think, right, actually, I want real food, but I want something that's a little bit more salty in there. So again, oops, crunchy nuts, which are just deep fried nuts. Again, 32 grams of carbs, 45 grams, and then, all right, what can mix it up in terms of put real drinks, which there's no real thing apart from water, but things like orange juice with no bits and Coke. So glass of orange. So for 250 ml, 26 grams of carbs. And then there's even things like if you're on a multi-day race, like the Spine, for example, you've got to take dehydrated food and you stop at, you go and hide in someone's shed. Think, right, dehydrated food. I've put fire pot foods in there so far because I've tested them all and they're the tastiest. So right, what do I want? It's morning time, baked apple porridge, large edition of that, times one, weighs 125 grams, and it's not brought up any carbs. I'll need to alter the data on that one. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
So it means in your mind, you can start thinking, okay, right, how long is this? And actually, how long can I go before I might get taste fatigue? So you might think, I'm pretty good. I can go that whole block, 7 hours on gels. But then I get to the checkpoint and then maybe, I need something else like, I put checkpoint food in as well. So I basically made a list of everything that I've ever found in a checkpoint and put them on there. So again, checkpoint, drink. Where's a bit of Tailwind or Coke? Glass of Coke. So just 100 mils, 10 grams. And then checkpoint, savory food, pizza slice, which I ate loads of over the weekend. Were amazing. So again, average pizza slice, kind of a little one, which might make sort of a pizza with 8 slices, for example, weighs 40 grams. It's got 20 grams of carbs in it, but then it's got about 7 grams of protein in there as well. So actually, all of a sudden, once we've gone through this, if we look at the top, we've had 343 grams of carbs. We're carrying just over a kilo in weight, but already we've already taken on 24 grams of protein. But fiber might be a little bit high depending on the individual. Some people are really able to tolerate fiber, some others not. So we can go through, find the high fiber foods, start to tweak them and take them out. So again, you can kind of test checkpoint food out in there and things like that as well.